Hey, my name is Lo Flung and we're here at the Campsie Centre for Electronic Music Research, and welcome to the world of no input mixing. This is in no way a technical analysis or breakdown of what's actually happening in the no input mixing process, but rather a kind of quick start guide to get you started making really interesting and unique tones using nothing but a cheap mixer and some audio cables. To give you a really basic idea of what's going on, you're essentially taking the output of a mixer and you're routing it back into the input to create sound. The sound is created by making a feedback loop, which you might have heard if you heard someone talking in public with a microphone and some speakers, where they're talking and then all of a sudden there's a big and essentially what that is the sound of the input, a microphone, feeding back into the output, which is the speakers, and doing that in an infinite loop. So the result of doing this with a mixer and audio cables can be quite chaotic and unpredictable and very, very tasty. With enough patience and experimentation, you could make stuff that sounds really harsh, rhythmic, and sometimes even really nice. Sounds that sound like this, and like this, and even like this. First thing you need is a mixer. I was lucky to get this one for free from my friend Drew. Thank you, Drew. I recommend using a second-hand mixer, which you can pick up for pretty cheap off Gumtree or Marketplace, Cash Converters, or if you're really desperate, new from any music shop. They'll probably cost you around $100. The bigger the mixer, the more options you have for routing the audio, obviously. But you can make do with any mixer that has more than one output. So some really useful things to look out for in your mixer are onboard effects, aux sends, mute buttons, control room out, any outputs, the more the better. Second thing you'll need is audio cables and a couple of adapters, really useful. A lot of mixers have an RCA or a 2-track or tape output, and these will require adapters. So they're useful for lots of things outside of no input mixing, so recommend getting a couple of adapters and some audio cables. Short patch cables should do fine as long as they reach from the outputs to the inputs. Alright, make yourself a cuppa. Warning. Make sure you start with your main outputs very, very low or off. This process gets very loud very quickly and you can easily damage your ears and your equipment, so just take it really easy. Don't worry though, once you get started you can work out appropriate levels quite easily. It's just for the start of this process you need to be very careful. Plug in your mixer's power and connect the main output of your mixer to your recording device or speakers, because you need to hear and record the feedback. Take an output and plug it into an input. To start, I'm using an audio cable to take the audio out of the 2-track RCA output into the input of channel 1 and 2 on my mixer. Give your mixer's main output faders a little bit of level and slowly start to take the channel level up. You may need to turn the gain knob on the input channels to get some sound to come through. Take it slow, because when the sound comes through, it will come through full volume. As long as your main output levels are low, you should be fine. Another optional thing that I find really useful is turning down the bass frequencies. They tend to take over all the other frequencies in the no input process. That's basically it. From here, experiment to taste. Try plugging more outputs into more inputs and play around with all the various faders, levels and EQs. You'll start to notice patterns in what you do and what you hear. 2 hours later. Well, I've got some pretty incredible, quite hectic noise that I've recorded into my computer, which I'll use for later. No input mixing is extremely expressive and playable. Try recording yourself, moving faders and knobs. Sample that and use it as your own unique sample pack, or record it as a composition. The choice is yours. Honestly though, is it actually possible to make something that sounds a bit more nice? To expand your palette further, try adding some guitar pedals into the chain of audio. Here, I'm using the Line 6 Verbzilla and the Boss Super Shifter PS5. 2 hours later. Gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Thanks for checking this video out, and let me know how you go with your experimentations. And if you want something a little bit more in depth, I recommend checking out this video in the description that Canadian sound artist Sarah Bell Reid has put together. Alright, thank you, enjoy.